This is a great way to start the podcast.
Yeah.
This is a nice groove.
Yes, episode 22022. Lowstone True North, taking businesses from broken to smoking. Today we're talking about attracting people to your team.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun
That was
and
perfect.
games. We got everything you want, honey. We know all the names.
So we worked to find a song that we can talk about a little bit as far as welcoming people to your organization. That's what we're going to be talking about today. As a leader of an organization, it's your job to figure out people in the process. So people in process is the root issues to organizations. So we're going to be talking about that quite a bit today. We're going to be talking about a couple of books that have been we've been working on here and there. So welcome to the jungle, as they say.
Good to be here.
Yes. Yeah. Very much. So you've been reading a book lately.
Yeah.
Tipping Point. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's fantastic. I'm only about 3 chapters in so far. But
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell, he starts to talk about, right off the bat, about epidemics and the basic concept of an epidemic.
Like how it goes from just not some folks are ill to it spreads around the
Right, and
planet.
that there's a tipping point. I don't want to get into the medical part of that because that kind of went over my head, but there's 3 rules of epidemics. There's law of the few, the stickiness factor, and the power of context. And so I'm not all the way through all of that yet, but the law of the few, he talks about Paul Revere, which I thought was kind of interesting since we're just finished our Lincoln book, which is a few years after that. But Paul Revere had a pretty extensive list of acquaintances in different towns. So when he was going through each town, he knew whose door to knock on and say that phrase, "The British are coming." So that's like a little short phrase that people understood right away what it meant. So as far as the law of the few, there was another guy that ran north or rode north on his horse.
And we don't know who that guy is.
We don't know his name. Well, we know his name because he's kind of in history, but
Yeah.
we don't know it off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
And the message got to one village. Paul Revere, his message, the same exact message, got to a whole bunch of people.
Wow.
And it's partly because of who he knew and his list of people around him. In his
That's really interesting. I didn't know that about him.
I didn't either. So I thought that was very cool. The stickiness factor, he kind of uses an example of Yale College tried to do a study on about the tetanus shot. And they try to decide what way to communicate that to their students, where they would actually do some action and get the shot. And so they had some students see a message that was like scaring them into getting the shot, and some just informational. And the ones that were seeing the scare, like being scared into a tetanus shot, thought it was very important to get the shot. But overall, nobody went and actually got the shot.
They just thought differently about it, but they didn't do it.
There was no action on it. And so the way they're like, well, there's something wrong here. And I mean, they tried to figure it out. And after a little bit of time, they tried messaging again, but they included a map to the health center. And then all of a sudden, the rates of people actually going to get their shot
So like,
went
go here, go get it here.
So they needed that one last piece of information, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Then the third rule of epidemics is the power of context. I don't remember what that's about, so I don't think I'm actually that far in the book yet.
So what was the first one?
The law of the few,
Okay. And then stickiness.
the stickiness factor, and then the power of context. So the law of the few, he goes a little bit further into what that means. So if you want to get an idea to reach the mainstream, there's 3 types of individuals that need to become involved in that process. And that's where the law of the few comes in. So you need connectors, mavens, and salesmen. Or should it be salespeople? I don't know. But he's a salesman.
There's
Connectors, mavens, and
Mavens.
salesmen.
salesman. Okay. I'm taking notes.
Yeah. Connectors have ties in many different realms and act as an idea conduit. I thought that was kind of interesting. I never thought of
Well, and I'm guessing
conduit as an
as
idea
connectors that they know people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they're good at, right? They know a lot of people.
And
or
we were
know
talking about,
some
he
of the
gives
right people.
several examples of people that are connectors, and I thought that was really interesting. Like I don't have the lady's name in front of me, but Arthur C. Clarke called her and was saying, "Hey, I'm coming to Chicago. Is there anybody I should meet?" And she said, "Yes, come to my house." And he gets there, and she invites Isaac Asimov
Wow.
and the other guy, Heimlich. Okay, so you got like these three masters of science fiction all together in her house, and it's because of her the way she's kind of wired is to have many acquaintances, and she always sees the best in people. At least finds one thing that's really cool about somebody. The other connector he talked about had the same kind of situation. He just had lots of loose ties, and it's what he talks about is the power of the weak tie. Which I thought was interesting too.
So this is connectors now.
These are connectors. Yeah.
And so the lady in Chicago, he used her as an example of a connector.
And it goes into depth about what, like, the characteristics of a connector.
Wow. That's really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about mavens?
Mavens, information specialists who enjoy helping others make informed decisions. And when I was reading this, I was thinking of your wife.
Yeah.
Because
That's
I just
interesting, yeah.
think that she's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And there's
she,
several other people that we know that are like that.
Yeah. It's interesting that if she gets it with some, I'm going to say a service provider of some sort, pretty soon, within, I don't know, 6 months, all of the people that we know are going there or using this service provider. Where there was a particular chiropractor from years ago, 15 years ago. And the guy told us the other day, he has like 100 clients because of referrals. I'm telling you, that's just how she rolls. And she doesn't, I don't think she tries to. I think she just talks about what she likes, what's working for her.
I
and
think
she's good
that's
at it.
something about these three types of people, connectors, mavens, and salesmen. I think they're kind of hardwired to be this. I mean, you can kind of learn to be any of these things, but these people had like a natural gifting in this area. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the impression I got.
So talk about stickiness.
I don't know.
You don't know, that's later in the book?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not that far yet.
Okay,
So,
cool. All
but
right.
okay, then you got salesmen, and they're charismatic, and they enjoy getting others to act on their recommendations.
So mavens are more informational or factual. Connectors are more relational. Salesmen are more kind of like charismatic about the thing.
Like mavens collect information because they're trying to solve something for themselves, and then they're like, "This is great," and then they will relay that information to someone else that needs the same solution.
Yeah.
Salesmen are more about getting someone to act on a recommendation they give,
Yeah.
where mavens are just wanting to help somebody.
Yeah. Okay. So
So it's a little
more,
different.
They're influencing. They're intentionally trying to get people to do something. Got it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I have not read Tipping Point yet. I need to put that on
I'm getting some copies in.
top
So
of my list. Yeah.
it's really good.
Yes. Yeah. That's great. Well, and that is exactly, I think, one of the root issues or one of the primary problems that businesses face. When I say businesses, I'm talking about the 10 to 200 employee business organization. Well, I'm bigger, but I'm aiming at that size, and this applies to smaller organizations as well. But it's about people and process. Like, hey, this is who is doing this stuff, and how are we going to do this stuff? And initially, when somebody starts a business, this is an E-Myth as well. You see this where there's a person that says, hey, I'm going to make or do this thing. And this is really general, right? But I'm going to make or do this thing. And whether it's a widget or a service or product or something, manufacturing, whatever it is. And then the organization grows because they happen to be good at making or doing that thing. And then it needs to shift into they make and do this thing. As in, not I, but these other people. And that's a really hard transition for folks to make, to shift from I do this thing to I get these people to do this thing. And that creates this issue, which is, hey, you as the visionary own they. Like, well, who are these people? Where did they come from? Oh, I got them to come here. And that's your new job as the leader, is to be the person that provides the they, and then by attracting them, inspiring them, hiring them, and then leading the they, and get them to do the thing. And that is such a hard, I know it's really simple to talk about, but it is a hard transition for folks to make. And as I'm working with clients, it is one of the, they are really mystified by this idea because it doesn't fit naturally in their heads because they're so good at doing the thing that they did initially. So that transition is really tough. And I think that this connector maven salesman deal ties in directly in that the visionary's job is to attract people to the organization primarily. Nobody ends up owning this. As I work with clients, companies, this is kind of like, it's almost like an afterthought where they say, oh, somebody, yeah, that's a big deal, attracting people to the organization. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, we got people for that. Like, well, what people? Well, HR and Indeed and stuff like that.
That's just the nitty gritty of putting an app or a thing out on the internet. Hey, there's this job opening.
And there's a lot of good work happening in HR and Indeed and all that around recruiting, if you will.
That's not attracting, though.
But it's not attracting. That's right. And it's not casting a vision. And if you don't get people into your organization, you don't have an organization. You have the wrong people, or you have people that don't have any sense of where you're going, and so they're not there for the right reason. And so that's a huge missed role. So it's really the visionary's role to make really clear kind of the who and the how, and then inside of the who to attract these who's, to go out and beat the bushes, if you will, be the connector, the maven, the salesman, depending on your skill set, to get folks to come in there. And really, the speech. This is, I boil this down to a speech for a visionary or for a leader, and the speech needs to be comprised of, hey, this is who we are around here. So be able to explain, not just explain, but actually cast vision for, hey, this is who we are. Here's our culture. Here's what our group is like, for a couple reasons. One is to make sure they're not attracting the wrong people, to kind of repel people. So you got to be able to say, this is who we are, bam, 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 core values. We talk about core values a lot in previous episodes with clients and guests. But be able to say, this is who we are, attract people. Secondly, hey, this is why we exist. This is our deep reason for being. And then thirdly, this is where we're going. and that's the land of awesome, this great destination. We have a great reason to go there. It's going to benefit you if we go there. It's going to benefit our clients if we go there. It's going to benefit the marketplace, the owners, everybody wins if we get to that place. And so it's the visionary's job to cast that vision made up of those three components. And I got to tell you, it is not often that folks get a hold of that really easily or quickly. It takes a lot of work on my part to get them to go, oh, that's what I should be doing with my day and week and all that. Yeah, that's right. So
It's a bit of a shift.
it is. Well, yeah, because they've started this business by doing the thing.
Right. We're
you
talking about
know,
this morning
right?
in our
The widgets or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And some of our clients are in that, well, there's different phases, different business phases, right? And the first phase could be I make or do that thing. Second phase is I make or do that thing with some helpers,
Right.
and that's kind of the genius
with a few.
With a few helpers,
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that if there's 3 or 4 of you. Now if there's 30 or 40 of you.
You have a stressed out
That's-
genius with a lot of
that's
helpers.
Yeah, that's a different. Yeah, that's not going to fly. Well, I mean, it might fly for a while.
It'd take a lot of juice.
And honestly, that's one of the hurdles I have to jump over. Is a business owner or visionary will say, "Wow, this is working. This is working fine. Why do I need help?" Like, buddy, you're about to hit the wall or the ceiling.
Sure.
You're running out of gas. Yeah, the thing's running me. Well, yeah, because you have this operating system of you get a bunch of people to just help you do the thing that you used to do by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not terribly scalable, depending on your capacity. Like, you might be a phenom of a micromanager. Okay, maybe you'll get to 60 people helping you. Okay, that's still not a great scalable operating system. So anyway, so Tipping Point is a really interesting book at helping someone see how to really tune up their inner connector, inner maven, inner salesman to become the chief preacher, if you will, or evangelist for the organization. Also, a couple other books that are really great around this idea of, hey, you need to attract people, inspire people, hire people, and lead people. Like, that's your job as the owner, operator, leader, visionary person, whatever that may be. Another great book around that is Who by, is it Brad Smart? Jeff Smart. Jeff.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
With a G. It's a great book, easy read, and it helps you to kind of go, oh, yeah, that's what it looks like if I spend a lot of time and energy as a leader attracting people. And he helps you to get the idea that you should create metrics around that, create deliverables around that for yourself. And I think he talked about a number of executives, major executives. The book's kind of old. I think it's maybe 20 years old, something like that. But he talked about specifically, I remember the Bank One CEO. I think some other bank absorbed Bank One since then. But this guy, I don't remember his name, but he had something like he made it a deliverable for himself to attract 30 top-level leaders to that corporation every year. That's 2 a week.
That's a lot.
Or more. It's like 1 every week and a half or something. And so he had to be out networking, making phone calls, asking his buddies, who do you know that I've got this position. He was very, very proactive. And in the book, he just kind of spells out, hey, this is how these guys and gals do this, that are successfully attracting people to their organization. And I find often as I'm working with my clients that is a new idea to them, that they personally need to be out attracting talent. I love the Tipping Point in that it kind of explains how it works, like theoretically or maybe conceptually how it works. Who is a great book for kind of giving you some practical templates and processes. And then the last book that I think is great for this is Drive by Daniel Pink. I'm sure there are other books out there about all this stuff, but Drive from Daniel Pink is a good book to help you say, you know what, you're using the wrong thing to try to motivate people. And and folks will, and you see this in our sessions too. Folks will go, "Oh, well, I guess I need to use more money or pay more money or do raises or put something on the internet that says, hey, we're paying more than those guys down the street." And it's like, that's not really what people are after. A lot of times people think they're after that, but what they're really after, and this is what Drive makes the case of. This isn't me. This isn't my own ideas. They're really after meaning, mastery, and autonomy. That's what really drives people. And so the visionary, it needs to be the chief evangelist of, hey, this is why we're here. So the folks that are working for somebody else goes, oh, that's not why my boss is here or why the business I'm in is here. I need to go work for those folks. And they just don't know. And it's the visionary's job to get out there and let them know, let their future staff know they're working for the wrong person, the wrong organization. Anyways, I love that. We'll have to talk more about Tipping Point. I'll have to put that on my my list of books to read. I have had it for years, and I've just not, for some reason, it's just not popped up.
It's been around for a while,
yeah.
but for some reason it ran across my list of stuff, and that sounds interesting. So I just started diving into it.
Other books he's written, Malcolm Gladwell.
He's got a whole bunch.
I know he has a ton of them.
Yeah. I was just looking at him this morning, but I can't tell you off the top of my head.
So I bought Masterclass for my family for Christmas last year, a couple of years ago, and he has a Masterclass on I think on writing.
That would be interesting.
It's really cool. He's a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And it's really well. It's funny because he's sitting there in like a white T-shirt, like old guys, like a granddad kind of T-shirt. You know what I'm saying? And it's in his kitchen.
That's funny.
And they're just filming him in his kitchen or dining room or something like that.
That's cool.
I think he lives in New York City in some apartment, but he is so smart and so good at explaining. Here's how I think it was. Here's how he interviews people, and then writes about them. If I remember right, and it was fascinating. I only got halfway through it, but Masterclass, by the way, is a good investment. There's a lot of interesting stuff on there. There's some cheesy stuff and some dumb stuff and some kind of PC stuff and some garbage. I'm like, whatever. But I'd say half of it is really rich. Bunch of really great chefs. What's the guy from Australia? I'll think of his name in a minute. I can see his face. There's Wolfgang Puck does 2 or 3 master classes, and they're like 15 lessons or something. One of the Williams sisters, I think it's Serena, does a master class on how to play tennis. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Didn't she just retire?
I don't know.
I think so.
Maybe. Hans Zimmer.
She just played her last game.
He does one on here's how you compose music for movies, and it's like 12 episodes. It's
He's
crazy.
done a lot of stuff.
Oh man, he's ridiculously good. Lots of authors. Judy Blume comes to mind. There's some other ones that I'm forgetting about. Also, actors. Oh, Steve Martin does one on how to do comedy.
Which I can't imagine. I would like to just watch, not because I want to be a comedian, but I think that would be
it's
fantastic
a fascinating. I mean, if you're looking for something to get out of the dumb Netflix muck, swamp, brainless waste of existence,
What do you really feel?
and actually learn some stuff, and I would say YouTube has some value. I mean, Netflix has value. I mean, I'm not, but folks sit around and just waste their lives. A present company included. I'm not, I am not unstained when it comes to that, but it's still a bad idea. So Masterclass is a great option for that. And I think it was $200. for the year. And there's a few, I think you can do 3 or 4 different sign-ins. You can download the episodes to your app on your phone so you can kind of, travel or whatever with them. And there's some really, really interesting stuff. Painters, artists, all kinds of interesting doers out there. And it's a pretty broad spectrum. I was surprised. Oh, they have Karl Rove and who was Clinton's big advisor? I can't think of his name now. They talk politics.
That guy
These two
from
guys.
has a Southern accent.
Yes, I can't remember his name now.
I have to look it up.
Oh yeah, I think it's that guy. He was one of his main strategists. They sit there and from both sides. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, and they just say, "All right, here's how you do campaign for people," and it's really interesting. I've only watched a few episodes of it, but a lot of good stuff there. There's a guy that I can't remember his name now, who's this urban gardener in L.A., and he's kind of like this renegade gardener guy where they garden in like spots where you're not supposed to garden and stuff. And he's this hardcore inner city guy that just really, really, I'm going to use the word colorful. I mean, he uses really intense language and so forth, but it's about gardening and about culture and about cities and about, society and stuff. Really, really fascinating. So anyway, my kids have enjoyed a bunch of that stuff.
That's really cool.
Masterclass.
Yeah, and not expensive either.
Nope, not at all.
This is not a paid advertisement.
No, it is not.
I thought I'd mention that.
So I've finished reading a few books since we've talked last night. Did you finish?
I did indeed.
You
That was a monster.
Yeah.
A Team of Rivals.
Team of
Yeah,
Rivals.
it's done. That last the chapter when they actually go through the assassination. But I did not realize there was 3 people.
Yeah.
It was a plot for 3 people. I don't remember learning that.
Yeah, that was a big news flash to me as well. So which 3? It was
Seward,
Lincoln, Seward, and
Vice President
I don't even remember his name now.
Johnson.
Was it Johnson? Yeah, because he took over. That's right.
Yeah.
After. That's right.
Oh, that's bad. Where?
Yeah. So imagine that the Secretary of State, the Vice President, and the President.
Well, that was the idea, is that
Yeah.
they wipe out all 3 and would just put the government in chaos.
Yeah. So that the South could continue.
Right.
And these guys were kind of renegades. I don't think they were in cahoots with anybody in the South. They were just kind of anarchists.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
They were operating on their own pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really interesting. The other thing about the assassination and the events all around it was how ridiculously unprotected and unprepared any of the top level leaders were for, or like almost naive. Like, nobody's gonna try to shoot the president.
I mean, his bodyguard was off that night.
He had a date or something.
Yeah, he was
right?
off, and no one seemed to be concerned about it.
And then you say, well, bodyguard, the guy should have like 10.
No, he wasn't worried about
and
it.
he had like
He's just going to the
one
theater.
part-timer. Ridiculous. And then when that all went down, the lack of communication, the lack of planning, no contingency plans, there were a lot of assumptions that this was all going to be okay. And also how incompetent the assailants were.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were as incompetent at trying. Now, unfortunately, they succeeded in assassinating Lincoln, but they did not succeed in Seward or Johnson.
Well, the guy that was going to do Johnson, he just changed his mind.
He changed his mind and
he
just walked.
He walks and never see him again.
Oh man,
it's like, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah, which is great. I'm glad he did, but it's still kind of comical.
It's weird.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that Seward had that carriage accident, and he had some sort of device in his face because his jaw was broken.
Oh, that's right.
And that's what saved his life.
Yeah, the guy
he-
tried to slash him.
Yeah.
And it deflected the.
It hit that device, and so but his face was
forgot
like
about
peeled
that.
open, and
Oh man,
which
poor
is
guy.
gruesome. But
Yes.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know.
And he went on to be really a vital part of the couple future administrations.
Yeah.
Seward did. That was really interesting. Yeah, what a great book. I'm glad
I'm glad it's done, but it was really good.
there was about 50 times I'm like, why am I reading this book? It's so long. Why didn't I pick a book that was this thick?
it's just
a
awesome.
half inch or an inch thick.
I think
Instead, have to pick a
I'm
book
very
that's
proud of this accomplishment of reading something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, well, let's pick a book that's measured in ounces, not pounds, next time.
All right.
Tipping Point. For
That's what I'm
example.
working on right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, there's
So-
one other thing from Tipping Point that's really
Yeah.
cool. He talks about word of mouth epidemic. And I thought that was interesting because when we think of word of mouth, we usually think 1 to 1 to 1 to 1.
Yeah, very linear.
Yeah, very linear. And that's how word of mouth, and we all know that word of mouth is very important for our businesses. But he talks about word of mouth doesn't really work unless it hits one of
those
one or all three of
Actors,
these.
mavens, and salesmen.
They have to be involved
Yeah.
in that process, and that's when word of mouth actually
Yeah.
works.
So it goes from, and maybe linear is the wrong word here, but it goes from linear
more-
to exponential.
Yeah.
Right? To
Right.
multiplication.
Right.
Rather than addition. Yeah, that's a great point. The to create a measurable policed kind of input or behavior system where you say, I, as a leader, am going to overtly talk to, connect with these three people, these three types of people on this rhythm weekly. So you and I know that, and one of the things that I try to really hammer away, and I got this from Greg Cleary as a sales process, is I need to be having 25 conversations a week, 5 a day. And that's a lot. That's a heavy lift.
Yeah, it is.
But these are conversations with current clients, future clients, or people who know and have the trust of my future client. And those are connectors, mavens, salesmen. So it's hard. It's exhausting, but it's the right kind of work to do to grow the business
Right.
and to attract great folks, whether it's vendors, clients, employees, connectors, all sorts. We got to attract people.
Yeah,
to
the
this
first thing when I think of word of mouth is advertising, but this is bigger than that.
Yeah, way bigger. Yeah, it's richer. Yeah, and a lot of times, advertising and marketing, if you will, is they're saying the wrong thing. They're actually not. They're not actually saying what is really beautiful and rich about the organization, and many times the person leading it hasn't done the archaeology to dig down and find that thing that has been buried over the years. Which is, hey, here's our rich, meaningful reason to exist. So,
Or it's just missing one little piece, like a map to the health center.
yeah, right. Well, yeah, just connect that dot the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes we forget to do that.
Well, so that was our we use the welcome to the jungle because the visionary needs to welcome people to their crazy little team, their crazy little jungle, if you will. And really get that in their kind of in their operating system. And we just want to do a quick little down and dirty episode, talk about visionaries, talk about people, talk about the tipping point. I think we did it. So,
We did it, and hopefully I'll have some more
Yes.
information on that book
Yes.
next time around.
Yep.
That good?
Yep. That's a good one. So 22 is in the can, buddy.
Good job.
Thank you.
Hey,
You too.
want some more music?
Yep.
Go back out on this.
I'm not a big fan of Guns N' Roses, but this is a really fun cover. So I
Yeah.
love covers. I love it when
Yeah.
other people cover bands.
Welcome to the jungle. We got
She's got a
fun
great
and
voice.
games.
Yeah.
We got everything you want, honey. We know all the names. We are the people that can find whatever you need. If you got the money, honey, now We got your disease in the jungle. Welcome,
All right, buddy.
welcome to
22 in the can.
All right.
yeah. Watch it bring you to your knees.
This is, who is it? Etta James.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the jungle. Take it every day. If you want it, you're gonna